We have been taught by our ancestors. We have to just look back to our histories to see how our ancestors organized themselves. We already have tools. The dance, you know how much research I paid to research on the mental health and well-being benefits of dancing? Yet we don't dance because we think we don't know how. But actually, who said there is a style that you need to follow? As long as you're moving your body and as long as you're hearing the beat, that just takes the load off from the pressures of life and connects you to you.
Wonderful. That just spoke to me. I mean, I think I need to be dancing more. Thank you so much, Sharon. I don't know if you have any other tools you could share with us.
I dance, not because that I don't. I dance, and I've. Whenever there's been things in my life, I think Mr. President said I came here as 19 years old, and things were tough. I was struggling with life. I've never been away from family. I built the village around me. And one of the very first thing I did when I was building that village was the African festival. That was in 2000 in Melbourne. And why? Because I knew if I connected to culture, I had the music, I had the drums, I had my people around me. That energy, I would eat my food. Back then, I couldn't find any of that pap or ugali anywhere in the shops. We had to bring them with us, and then they get taken off at the airport because they thought there was some cocaine in that thing. And so we were craving for the things that grounded us, that says, even here in a world that you don't know, this is home. So if there is one thing I can talk to you about scaffolding you in a country that you are now starting to call home, keep your culture. Keep grounded. Walk in this world like you know who you are, because you know who you are. You will not be here if you didn't know who you are. Those dreams are valid, but lean in. Don't do it alone. Lean into your community, because it's together like here, as we're sharing, that you will hear something that when things are tough, you will hold on to or lean on to scaffold yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much, Sharon, for that. And I'd like to hear from Dr. Mercy Mora. From your experience, I know that you have gone from refugee health back in Kenya, and now you are one of the health leaders here in Queensland. How did resilience evolve across all those stages in your life?
Thank you for that, Pieter. And I really want to acknowledge my fellow panelists as well. Maybe interacted with them in different forums. Sharon, we've worked together in Queensland Health, an amazing ally. So thank you so much for your support as well. I think resilience based, so I did work in Kakuma refugee camp back in Kenya as a GP. I think this is breaking on and off. I think resilience from that point of view was, from a health provider point of view, was survival, to be honest. And I really want to acknowledge that I do not really represent the views of all people from refugee background. This is just my personal view, which may be subjective, and I really want to appreciate the resilience of the people that we worked with in Kakuma refugee camp. We had Eric who performed earlier. The stories that you've shared through music. So I think at that point, from my point of view, was survival because of limited resources in the refugee camp. We had very constrained environments, both physical, mental, financial-wise. You know, there you're the GP, you're the specialist, you're the nurse, dietitian, you're everyone. So I think just survival was what was there in terms of resilience. But I think moving across the stages of life and being an international student, that carries resilience with you in different forms. And I've shared my story so many times, I will not share that again. But I think heading into the workspace from an international student and stepping into the workforce, the challenges never stop. So you have to carry resilience with you every single day and proving yourself every single day. And I think when you're now working as part of the system is how do you carry that resilience and I guess transform that solutions. Oh, thank you. So I think from survival from the refugee camps and into the workforce, into the health system in Queensland is how do we turn that resilience, turn that, I guess, our lived experience into impactful solutions. And I think what I've realized is you move from survival to the system can be quite slow in responding to things. So that resilience is more of a commitment. And sometimes you feel like you want to give up in wanting to fight for equity and wanting to fight for good models of care. But I think is that commitment and having people around you, the allies that you're talking about, Sharon, as well, and making sure that whatever you do, don't give up, I think. And I think as part of the different parts of the journey is making sure that you don't give up. The system does change quite slowly, but every small bit does count. That incremental journey is very important towards building a future-focused health system. What we're doing now will really impact our future generations. So having that commitment in mind as we carry along through our phases of life from being a student and working within the health system.
Yes, thank you very much, Mercy, because a lot of us draw a lot of confidence in you because you've seen how you've transitioned from being a student to being one of the top leaders in health over here. And so thank you for sharing that. I'd like also to go to Dr. Joseph Hongo because you've worked in conflict zones globally. What has that taught you about human resilience?
Thanks a lot. And also to recognize our panelist, Desire, we've danced together several places. Sharon was my first boss technically, and my sister, I've known her for a long time, an amazing lady. Mora, we've eaten ugali together and danced together, so thanks a lot for this opportunity. I have worked in different countries across different continents, in most cases, countries which are in or emerging from conflict. And whenever I talk to people on the ground and in difficult situations, those who have experienced crises and challenges, the meaning of resilience emerges from the fact that they believe, they look at it not as a personal, individual issue. Resilience is relational. It is what we are, not what I am. People will talk about what they have gone through individually, but in most cases, their story is about we. Now, what does it mean for us here? Over your time here, you will face crisis. You will make mistakes. You will go through troubles. But always think that your resilience starts with being we. Ask yourself, who are my allies? Who are my networks? And who are my friends? And that is something to build over time. I remember when I came here as a student, within 2 weeks, I met two guys. Sharon knows them very well. They used to drive me everywhere. They'd been here for a long time. But even today, I can call them because we maintain that we-ness of the people. And so in most countries where people have faced adversity and serious challenges, they don't think of themselves as I first, because the I has its own limits. And you're here in a different country with a different culture, and in most cases, you are the minority. And so as a minority, your voice is not always as loud as you like it to be in your village or in your home, in your city. And so you tap into the people that you call we, the friends that you have. They may not be the best, the greatest friends. They may not be the richest friends, but I can tell you, when you need them, especially good friends, they'll turn up. So how do you nurture that? You build it across levels. Sometimes I see many of us hanging out with those who we arrived together. It's okay to do that, but also go beyond that. Sometimes even those whom you disagree with, sometimes those who you fear, or you think that, these guys have stayed there for a long time, let me just not bother them. They may know something that may give you a lesson, so that when you're in a crisis, you don't find yourself alone and lonely. You tap into what we call we. Because in this country, they'll always ask you a question sometimes. Where are you from? And who are you from that question is loaded. In it is a concept, who are you? And for you, who are you in terms of we? Always tap into that we, because it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hongo. That is an important, thank you for the claps. That is an important reminder of what community plays in our day-to-day life. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And let's talk about the struggles that people don't really see. Desire. You have built your company from scratch overseas here in Australia. And we'd just like to understand, what are those challenges that don't get talked about enough, especially when starting over in a new place?
Amazing. Thank you. So can you guys hear me? I'm pretty loud without the mic as well. Awesome. First of all, I just want to say, is it Jambo wa Kenya? Awesome. And I want to, first of all, acknowledge the leadership of this incredible association. It takes a lot of work to do something like this, and I tell you what, you guys are amazing. You guys are contributing to the economic landscape of this country. I wanna first of all say, give yourself a round of applause before I answer this question. I know that Kenyans are smart, but you guys are, man, something is happening here. I can feel it. I'm a momentum kind of guy, so I love a little bit of energy. But back to your question, what are some of the hidden stuff that, sorry, ask that question again. What are some of the hidden challenges that people don't see? Awesome. Look, I just feel like, first of all, I want to start that by defining my own definition of resilience. I feel like resilience for me is staying anchored in your purpose and being adaptable without losing your identity. For me, that is my own definition of resilience. And I use the word adaptable, not change. I think those are two different words. Now, in some of the answering your question of some of the things some people don't see, permit me to talk about myself, because I feel like my life's journey embodies everything about this topic of resilience. Now, I came here in 2011 as an international student. I come from Nigeria. And I don't know if you know, Nigeria is the biggest place you can see black people in this world. Whatever you are, you have 10 times or 10 million people better than you. That's a fact. Nigeria is very competitive. Nigeria is in a place that is smaller than Queensland in terms of land mass. And we have over 220 or 240 million people in that place. So it's a lot of people. So just even coming from Nigeria alone, the resilience I think is in your DNA. That's why we just letting you know. But my journey started in 2021. Before 2021, I hit a low in my career. I went to uni to study chemical engineering in Nigeria. And, they say work hard, do everything. And I worked hard, studied hard. And I'll tell you what, everything was an epic failure. I didn't get a job in oil and gas. That was the trajectory I was going. And I said to myself, this is a waste of time. But I said to myself, I have to keep going. I never stopped. I went to Lagos. I did everything my hand could lay. And I started acting in Nollywood. I did a whole lot of things. But I told myself Nigeria at that point could not give me what I wanted. So what I did was I saved up money. I did a community fundraiser. I got a lot of people like this. They gave me money. I've never been on a plane before. I took the longest journey. And I tell you what, I was so determined. I said to myself, I paid the first semester school fees. I don't want to go into how I got admission and all of that. I paid the first semester school fees, and I started asking, hang on a minute. I didn't think about accommodation. I was like, where am I going to live? But I was so determined that even if I have to sleep under the bridge, I'm going to get something better for myself. And it sounds stupid right now, but I felt like where I was worse than where I was going to. I didn't know how. On the day I was supposed to leave Nigeria, someone said, oh, there's someone that went to your uni, but they said ahead of you that lives in Australia. Just give him a call. He gave me a number. I called this guy. It was just a dice. This guy was luckily I was in Brisbane. I was like, what are the odds? Called the guy. He's like, hey, dude, I told you my story. He said, don't worry, I'll pick you from the airport. I didn't believe him for anything. So I was like, if I go there, he doesn't show up. Story. Anyway, I come in, lo and behold, the guy was there. In fact, they quarantined me at the airport because I didn't bring my yellow fever or whatever. And I pulled the card and they let me go. The guy picked me up. And I'm going back to the story now. Now, in answering your question, I came here, I was so confused. I didn't know nothing. I've never been on a plane. Everything was different. The things I call vegetable are different. Veggies, everything. Just to give you. Look, I am so confused. I've never been on these buses. And you guys are laughing about this thing right now. But sometimes I feel like it's a story of some people. I came here with just $1,000. I'd never been on a plane. Didn't know any soul. But I was determined to survive. I was determined to thrive. I said to myself, I didn't come to Australia to look at kangaroos. I came here to survive. Okay? And I came here to build a better life for myself. Then I said to myself, whatever happens, education is my key to this thing, and I'm going to finish my education no matter what. So what did I do? I got a job. Now, in answering some of these questions, some of the things that I think people don't see is the losing yourself, losing your identity, the struggle. You've got a lot of education. You're doing some jobs that you feel like you don't belong or you don't, that are subpar to who you are. And sometimes you can lose yourself in that. And you can say, is this who I have become? Just to do this, I was just a budding actor. I was doing a whole lot of things in Nigeria, and I've come here. And I'm doing all the things, and with all due respect to anyone doing this job there's nothing wrong with this job, but my career was, I'm a chemical engineer. I'm doing a master's in IT and all of these things. But I'm doing cleaning. I'm working in the farm. I'm working in recycle bins and all of that. And at the time, I started losing my identity. And some of the struggles you don't see, and also you're faced with the fear, the tension. Will I be able to pay my next semester school fees? Will I be able to pay my rent? There's financial pressure, there's identity issue, and there's, do they even understand me? I feel like, I tell you what, when I came to Australia newly, we speak English with Nigerian accent, and people say, get out my higa on here, I'm going to the Avo Savo, and all. I'm like, what in the world is this? I was like, am I learning English from beginning again? There's a whole lot of things happening in my head. So there's a whole, without taking a whole lot of, I have stories for days for that question, but I don't want to take up much time. So there are a lot of things, financial pressure is one. And also another big one that people don't get to talk about is loneliness. Loneliness is a big one. I remember just saying to myself, the first 3 months I contemplated going back to Nigeria. I remember. And it took someone, I don't know, she's no longer here, Joelle Kebamba. It's a name I always thank her. I met her in church, and she just kept on encouraging me, why not volunteer in this, volunteer in that, and I built community for myself. So loneliness, financial pressure, identity issues, and stress from home as well. You hear you get a message, your mom did this or something happened to your brother, and all of that. All of that stuff affects you. I think we just got to remember why you're here. I think so sometimes the things that helped me through some of those things was just clarity of purpose. I had to go back to my why. Why did I leave Nigeria to come all the way to this place? And two was adaptability. I told myself, I've been here before in different forms, and the word resilience and adaptability, it's been happening before my time, and it will continue happening. You have to get these skills. And three, endurance. Endurance, I just told myself, look, I just have to endure. This is part of the process. I accepted it. That's part of the process. And sorry, it's a long answer to your question. So thank you.
Wow, a round of applause for that. Thank you so much, Desire. I'm sure your story really speaks to a lot of people here tonight. And thank you for honestly sharing that. I would like to move on to Mercy. You also have your story, which you have shared multiple times, but you came as an international student, yes, and paved your way through to what you do right now. But what were those hardest moments, and what got you through?
That's a really good question. And I think, Desire, as you're speaking, I was like, that sounds very familiar. I was almost forgetting that beat, So without repeating my story, to be honest, there are many, many hard moments. Yeah, I was about to pack my bags and go back home as well. I was a medical doctor back at home, and here I am. I did work in the factory as well, and not saying those jobs are any bad, but I think it's that professional identity. We do have a human identity, but I think professional identity is part of your well-being. And you start to lose yourself, to be honest. I did come here. I didn't know anyone as well. Climbing the buses, and the language was another thing. So there was many, many hard moments. And to be honest, loneliness was number one for me, to be fair. Loneliness was really hard because I think I had a big community back at home. I'd done my bachelor's degree back at home. My family was back at home. It took a long time to kind of get friends. I'm a very social person, but I think it took time to get friends. And COVID hit when I was in my second year of uni, I think, around that time. So COVID, we were all isolated, and, we have no one to talk to face-to-face, particularly because I draw a lot of my energy during face-to-face interactions. So COVID added that extra layer of, I think, loneliness and, your mental health and well-being is challenged a little bit, and I think that's where the resilience comes in, and go back to your core purpose. What makes you happy, what makes you wake up in the morning. So for me, I think the loneliness, is for me to just pick up a phone and call my mom, how are you? It doesn't have to be much, but I think those feeding off those social interactions with your family and friends was important. But I think the other thing that Desire spoke to as well was identity, and I think I've talked about professional identity, but I think it reached a time where I was about to give up as well because, you come with a vision, you come with a purpose, but I think over the years you're like, oh, I've gone to uni, I've done all the right things, I was told once I finished my master's, I'm going to get a job, and nothing was panning out for me at that time. You're a doctor, you're doing all these things back at home. But I think what made me continue waking up every day was finding a mentor, and I'll never stop speaking about the importance of having a mentor. I think for me that was the biggest factor and a stepping stone for me in my professional journey. So as Desire said, you come in, where do I go? And I think Engineer Ian also spoke very well. I was really relating to a lot of your points. I'm sitting there on my laptop, I'm doing sick. Indeed, I've probably done a 12-hour shift in the factory. I'm really tired. I have assignments to do. I need to apply for jobs. I was one of those people, Ian, that I was just sending 300 applications out there and not getting anything in return. So when I did get this mentor as well, because I'd gotten a lot of, I think, stories from other students saying, oh, you'll never get a job. Oh, you need to change your course. Oh, you'll never get your PR. Oh, all these things. And I think having that mentor holding my hand and being able to tell me, it's okay, it's going to be fine. So what I did is he told me, understand the system. You have to understand the system. As much as you're a student, as much as you've studied, because I did Masters of Health Services Management, is understand the system is very important. What are the things they're looking for in the system? So the mentor really guided me, and I did do my volunteering at QPAST. I don't know whether you knew that, Sharon. I actually did my volunteering in QPAST for a year, and then I did my volunteering at MATA, where I'm actually working at the moment. So I did my volunteering there for a whole year, and I usually say, I had a lot of discouragements at that time as well, like, oh, you're wasting your time, you're not being paid during volunteering, you should go and do your shifts to get money, which is understandable because you have to pay your bills. So I think it's that balance. You have to pay your bills, but also nurture your professional journey. So I did my volunteering for a bit, and then I did my research at MATA as well. And I think my mentor, who's actually my boss over the last 7 years, Donata, I can never speak any highly of her. She's been such a good friend and mentor. She came for my graduation. So I think having a mentor is really, really important. But I think the other thing is being grounded in who you are, Sharon. I think that's what you said before. I think knowing your purpose, having that clarity of purpose you're speaking about, but also being able to nurture your journey and nurture your purpose of coming here is very important.
Thank you very much, Mercy. And I'm sure that this is why we're here today as well, for mentorship, to make sure that we network and find people to propel us in our careers, right? Are we together? Thank you. And Dr. Joseph Hongo, we'd also like to draw from your experiences, and so that you can speak to the students as well. What are those common conflicts that international students face, and how should they navigate them?
there are a lot of challenges. I call them challenges because in that way you can strategize to overcome them that international students face. And I do come across it as a lecturer. In most cases, they are about what has been spoken here: identity, belonging, making sense of this new life, and making sense of where you're going to. In most cases, people tend to focus on interpersonal conflict between you and your friend or your enemy or your boss and stuff like that, or intergroup conflict. So the common one that I see is where people become, people become enemies because they can't work together in a class, and some people change courses, some people even change schools because they can't interact with the people that they're supposed to be interacting with, and intergroups as well. But the biggest challenge that I come across is what we call intrapersonal conflict. This is stuff that happens within you. And this is very, very difficult because, first of all, we are less critical about ourselves. We don't appreciate